What's up, guys? I'm here with Martin Fitzwater and Brett Wilkin, and we are previewing the 2022 Orlando Pro. Martin actually reached out and said, hey, do you guys want to do a preview on this show? And I was like, that's an awesome idea. And unfortunately, I slept in a little bit, so Nathan had to attend to his teething baby. So it's just the three of us today. But boys, how you doing? Brett, what's been going on since the last, 2 days?
Not much, man. Just getting after it. The podcast turned out good, man. Like, that was fun to get together, and people are coming up with some names, so we'll have to label something here. We're not gonna name it Bruh Chat or Bodybuilding and Brothers or something like that. Yeah. I see you guys fucking around stuff. No, but there's some good ones. Appreciate all the especially the support, because we're gonna just keep just hanging out and chat and do stuff like this. So I'm glad shows are on, so we can talk about shows especially this weekend, and the few coming up. More in the United States anyway, but shit's rolling, man. Summer, let's go.
Yeah, man. And shout out to those people that shared it out on Instagram, or have commented on the actual show that we put out, which only went out 12 hours ago or something like that. So shout out to everyone who's done that so far, and buys and tries as well on Instagram. I saw they shared it out in their story and tagged us in and stuff. So massive shout out to those pages and everyone that shared it and is supporting the podcast, because I think you guys will like it. But what's been going on, Martin?
Man, just the same thing, rolling like Brett said. He trained with Ranch past couple days, just getting my ass kicked and having a blast. But yeah, no, I wanted to reach out to you guys and do this. I'm like the biggest fan of bodybuilding ever since I've been a kid, man. So to have my boys want to chat bodybuilding and talk about who we think's going to win, and then also these guys starting to be peers or guys that we've competed against as well, kind of makes it that much more fun, because we have some insight on like what we think of these guys as athletes, or even what we think of them as people too. So I think it'll be a lot of fun for us to kind of give insight on what we think about this and be able to just chat and have fun with the boys again. So I'm happy to be here, and let's get rolling.
That's it, man. And you guys have seen obviously a lot of these guys up close as well, which gives a different perspective, because I know myself, like I've seen contests where I've seen like William Bonac. I saw him in person versus Sean Roden in Australia, and that was sort of his breakout show. And I was like, whoa, this guy's crazy impressive. And I look back on photos, I was like, oh yeah, Sean Roden should have won. But being there at the contest, I was like, if William Bonac won it, like I wouldn't have been mad about it at all. So it gives it sort of a different perspective as well. But let's get into it, boys, and I'll bring up the competitors list while we're talking for this Orlando Pro. I don't believe there's actually a webcast for this one. Do you guys know if there is or not?
There's not, man. I already looked. There's no live stream or anything like that. So probably, I'm guessing someone will do a live on Instagram, which, I mean, obviously quality is going to suck, but hopefully we can get some good pictures and be able to see. It is kind of disappointing, though, that we are in 2022 and we still can't get a live stream on a pro show.
Yeah, that's the disappointing thing, because obviously like now there's more pro contests as well, and it's like the ones that have the live stream, they get so much more coverage, so they should be able to sell their sponsorships for that show and everything more and all that sort of stuff. But I just like to see them, be able to, definitely have a live stream there should be a live stream for really every pro show, in my opinion, because
I mean, you got to grow the sport, right? I think that's the way to grow the sport, is to have live streams. And I mean, we would all tune in, right? So
absolutely. But let's go over this competitor list. So we've got Tony O'Burton, Max Charles, Phil Clahar, Jonas Giatris, Jamil Hamilton, Martin Hernandez, Matt Cooper, Jason Lowe, who's making his transition from 212s open, Walter Martin, Hassan Mustafa, Rashid Oldacre, and Andrea Presti. So it seems like these competitor lists are bulking up a little bit. But what do you think about it? What's your first impressions there, Brett?
Well, obviously, the one name that sticks out to me is Hassan Mustafa, just coming off of a win. I know he's been, as it appears, he's been staying with his coach, AJ Sims. So he's going to, 99% sure he's either going to be just as good or better at this show. So that's kind of a scary thought in itself, because he was his best ever this last show. First time we've ever seen him in shape. Give it another, what was that, 4 weeks ago? He's only going to be tighter and better. So that sticks out to me right away, and I'm excited to see it, because he's always been someone. I remember I competed against him last year, and like backstage, you're just like, what the fuck? There's just so much muscle, but he was just missing that conditioning aspect. You just could see the potential always, but now he's starting to reach his potential in regards to conditioning. So now it's like, okay, can he continue like show to show? Is he going to get better? You know, is like everything just going to continue to improve? The main thing I think that will improve this show is his posing, because he is, you know, right there with his coach, and he's probably making them do rounds like this. I'm sure this is probably post-workout doing rounds, you know, getting more and more posing done. So, you know, he's just going to get better. So I personally think he's going to take this show. You know, I'm not going to say easy. You never win a show easy, but I think he's going to win this show. And then I'm more interested in kind of seeing him against the top dogs at the Olympia. You know, I'm not saying he's a top 5 guy or anything, but I want to see how close he can get to that while he's in this type of shape right here.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen one of the guys he's competing against, Walter Martin, because they asked, what do you think of his pose? He says, pose is no good. He looks extremely uncomfortable. So he's definitely giving an opinion. So
that's somebody he's competing against?
What's that?
That's somebody he's competing against?
Yeah, Walter Martin. I've actually got, he's competing.
I don't know who Walter Martin isn't.
Yeah, so this is Walter Martin here for people that don't know. He's actually recently on the Dennis James podcast as well. So he actually is pretty impressive, and he's improved a lot.
Well, he did a show earlier this year, right?
Yes, he got, I think it was 7th at the Indy. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
7th or 6th or something. So he did pretty decent. He beat a few names out there, but we'll get onto him soon. But we'll start at the top of the competitors list and go through from there. We'll start with Tony Burton, who I think is a legit contender for this show. He's improved a lot, like added a lot of muscle. He's restricted by the 212s last year. He did do the Legion after the Olympia, and I believe at the Olympia he was actually marked down due to his gyno. So he did have surgery on that, and he seems like he's added.
That's pretty wild right there.
Yeah, he's looking pretty insane.
If you look at these pictures, you see me comment on most of them. I'm a Tonio fan, man. I like him.
Yeah, likewise,
so
man.
I competed with Tonio at Legions. This kid is wildly impressive, man. And Legion was nothing near his potential. And really, I didn't think that Cali was either. They only dieted for 6 weeks for Cali. And most people don't know that. So he's actually fully dieted now. I know that Brett thinks Hassan is going to win this, but I think Tonio is going to beat him. Tonio's way prettier. He's way better at posing, and his physique just flows so much better. Hassan is a freak, man. He's one of the best, but because he's already got Olympia qualification, if Tonio shows up, I think he could really do some nasty, nasty damage.
Yeah, Tonio is crazy impressive. Like, he's got very different looking muscle to most guys. Like, he's got
so bubbly, man. He's unbelievably bubbly.
Yeah, it's like I always say it's sort of like a I'm trying to think of his name now. Michael Lockett sort of look in a way, but it seems like he's got even more potential, in my opinion.
Yeah. What's crazy is he hasn't really had it. I know last year he called it an off season, but he didn't have a true off season. He never went above 8% body fat. Like, he looked like that all off season. I know he got bigger, but he didn't get big. You know what I mean? So he still needs to do that. I think before he starts winning shows, he needs that one true off season where, like, you know, he gets up to like 260, 270, and then comes down from there.
I can see what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I'm guessing, what do you think his weight's at? Like 220, 225?
No, I've been
posted 230 something, I think he said.
Yeah, I think it's like 231.
Okay.
And
I thought I saw weight.
He's short too. But who knows? I really think he's just got to stand next to guys, because I mean, he was like only like 218 at Legions, and he still hung with the best of us. I mean, none of us were crazy peeled though either. So except for Clarita, so that was a factor as well, and he was in really good shape. But he's impressive, man. I'm excited to see him, and he's young, so that's another guy that we'll be seeing for the next good bit of time over the next few years, grow into the open, which is exciting too. You know, he's one of the guys like Brett and I just coming up.
Yeah, he's definitely on the come up. I can't wait to see how he does at this show. And yeah, like you said, Martin, I think he definitely has the potential to win this show. Next competitor, Max Charles. Max is sort of, for me, he's one of those guys that, like, when he was with Milos, I think it was 2 years ago or whenever it was, he was like his best ever. Like, when he did that Arnold Classic where people were saying he could have placed higher and everything, I thought that was his best. Since then, seems like he's still brought decent packages to the stage and decent conditioning, but just from the back, I think he falls down enough for him to sort of slip past that sort of top 3 sort of placing in these shows. But Martin, what do you think? Do you think Max can sort of like redeem himself and then, you know, come up at a couple places, or do you think he's sort of one of those sort of 5th to 6th place guys?
You know, the problem with Max right now is I think he just needs a break. He's been competing like since the first show of the year. He did the Arnold. He did the show before that.
Since last time, you know what I mean?
He just really hasn't taken a break, and I feel like that's what his body needs. From the front, he's wild.
Yeah.
And sometimes he misses from the back, and I don't think it's really a miss as much as it is he's just tired and wore out, and the muscle just looks fatigued and tired and wore out. He's so good that I know it's hard to shut it down, but you still got to shut it down for a few months and let your body just quit. It is. And I think that is why he's not really moving up. He's always in the top 5, but he's not hitting a home run because he's just a little wore out. And other than that, man, I mean, Max has got it all.
Yeah. If he looked the way he looked at like the Arnold, just say when he did really well, looked really good. If he looked like that and he's guaranteed to look like that this weekend, I'd probably pick him to win. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see a win like that.
Yeah. What do you think, Brett?
It's just so hit or miss, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think 80% of the time he's going to be, you know, in that 4 to 7 range, but then that, you know, 20% of the time he's in that 3 to 1 range. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he still comes out and just shocks people sometimes. So it's just, for him, it's just about he just got to find what's working on that peak and then like continue, you know, redo that process every time. Or I know it's always different with each show, but he needs to figure out when it does click, what's working and what's not. So he's really close, man. Like you said, he's won shows in the past. I mean, did he get 2nd in New York or 3rd or something? He did really well there, right? Or Indy, I mean.
Man, I honestly can't remember. These shows are all like blurring together. I've had a hectic start to the year, so I can't even remember. But you look at here in New York, he looks good there. Like from the front, there's no problem.
So it just matters who shows up. You know, we know that.
Yeah, and I think as well, like you can stand next to people from the front and go, "Well, yeah, it's close," but then as soon as he turns to the back, it's like, "Oh, okay, that's the deciding factor." You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
like I said, I think that's more fatigue than it is maybe necessarily condition, because it's not like he's fat.
Nah, I agree, man. Next competitor, we'll chat about Phil Clahar. Phil Clahar has about the worst camera quality you could see. So his update photos aren't they never look impressive. But you can see this photo here. He just doesn't look near as impressive as he looks on stage. So I'm thinking we're going to see a lot better package than this looks like.
He looks like old Ronnie Coleman right there.
He does, like in the face. He looks like he's added 20 years to his life because of his camera quality or something.
He needs to get a new camera.
Yeah, because we saw him in Boston earlier.
I know Phil's hilarious, man. He's so old school. When I was on HD with him, and we got to hang out at the Olympia and stuff, and man, he's a hoot. He's like right at 50, I think, maybe just over 50 even.
Yep.
And the dude is like, I don't give a crap about social media, so his wife does it for him and stuff. He's awesome, man. I'm interested to see this package. So he looked incredible at Texas last year. I was unbelievably impressed with him there, and his conditioning was up there with Ian's at Texas, man. I really think like he pushed Ian there with the conditioning. So he worked with Phil Viz last year, and now he's with George.
Yes.
So I'll be interested to see the transition there, and how that worked. And if they can bring it like they have before, I mean, Phil will be right up there in the top 5 to 3, somewhere in there. I really think he's a good bodybuilder, man. He's got all the muscle in the world. He's a big boy.
Yeah, exactly. And just by those photos, you would just totally underrate him. But this video is a little bit more representative. But that was a little bit ago as well. So that's probably about 4 weeks or something ago now. Yeah, and he looks pretty good there, as you can see. Next guy, Jonas Giatris. Now, this guy came, I think it was 3rd in Puerto Rico. He's prepped by Chris Aceto. Looks pretty damn impressive in this photo. He looks really, really hard. His back maybe isn't as big as some of the other guys, but it is so crazy detailed. So what do you guys think? I'll go to you first, Brett, about Jonas Giatris.
He comes in, man. He comes in peeled. He comes in hard. He knows what he knows what his strengths are. Great legs. I saw him, like you said, he looked pretty good at Puerto Rico. Newer guy on the pro scene. I think this is just a couple shows in now.
Yeah.
He'll be up there. I think he'll be first call outs for sure. I believe. I don't think he'll win, necessarily, but I think he'll definitely be towards the top in this show.
Yeah, I think he's 42 years old because Chris Aceto, who's his coach, says 40.2. So I'm assuming he's not like a young dude, but he's new on the scene. Martin, what do you think about Jonas?
Yeah, Jonas is good, man. I actually personally know him. He's from Utah. He's a good bodybuilder. He's a great dad. And he'll bring conditioning. He doesn't quite have the size yet to take this show, I don't think, personally. And unlike Tonio, he doesn't have like unbelievably round muscle bellies to kind of make up for that size.
Yeah.
To be able to fight for a win without being the big guy. But I do think that like Brett said, he'll be right up there. His conditioning is nasty. It was good at Puerto Rico, and it'll be way, way better now. So, he'll have a good showing, and he's a big boy too.
Yeah, for sure. In certain shots, like from the back, he looked a little bit slight. Here, he looks really big on the side chest next to Hassan. But then you look at some of the other shots, and you're right. Like, there's just not the level of muscularity or crazy muscularity that would, be enough to win a show like this. I don't think, because he's peeled, like he's in great condition. So, next guy on the list is Matt Kuba. This guy seems to come in pretty awesome shape all the time. Maybe doesn't have the size as well to really match up with a lot of these guys, but do you think he can sort of catch some people off, maybe, Brett, if he comes in shredded?
I like Matt. Matt's a good dude. He, through and through bodybuilder over the years. I just don't think the shape's there, man. Like it'll be second call out, third call out possibly, but necessarily he's just such a big frame to fill out. When you meet him in person, you just kind of look up. You know what I mean? He's probably over 6 foot, so it's a lot to fill out. So I don't think we're going to quite have the size and the shape to be able to stand next to the Hassans and the Tonios like you guys were talking about.
Yeah, he's got a baller office, man. Like, look at his home office. He's got all these signed like footballs and basketballs and stuff. Like,
cool shit.
Yeah, I'm actually jealous of his office when I look at it as well. He's got like a TV here. I'm like, he's killing it. But
he doesn't miss a Giants game, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Martin, did you mention? Did I ask you about that?
No, I mean, so I think Matt's a great bodybuilder too, like Brett said. Really, the thing about Matt that has always stuck out to me is he has like wild body parts, and then some of his body parts are kind of lacking. And I think that's one of the things that Brett's talking about with shape that kind of hurts him sometimes. Like, he has really good hamstrings, quads aren't as good to match. Just little things like that. And I think that's kind of where the devil's in the detail there of where he'll slide back, although he's peeled. These guys, this is a heavy hitter show, and there's some guys in here that I just think are more Olympia bound than he is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to bring up the next one, but the little tab at the top came up. Next competitor is Jason Lowe. He's making his move from 212 to open. You can see here the latest photos. I saw some photos from a week ago, and I'm like, oh, he's not in shape enough. But these ones he's looking a lot harder in. There's still a few areas where I think he's just got a little bit on there. But when you look at his, like, when he looks out his quad, I'll find a quad shot. It's extremely striated. Like, the medialis and everything is striated, as you guys can see there. But I just don't know if he'll have enough going from 212 to open. What do you think, Brett?
I'm a friend of Jason's. I've known him a long time. I've seen him go up the classes just like me. We competed back together in multiple shows. Main thing is I'm very interested on what his ending weight's going to be here. Obviously he always had to barely make 212, but he'll definitely be in shape. Like, he's definitely in shape. I just don't. I honestly think he's like probably like 218. You know what I mean? He's not. Yeah. Which is a 6-pound bump from last year, but it's just like you almost need to take a little bit longer and continue to build up. I had to do. I took 2 years off just to go to the Open, and it's a big jump just doing one off season. You know what I mean? So I think, I think his shape will be there. His condition will be there. It's just his size. It doesn't look like his size might not be here for this show.
Yeah. And these side shots, I think they're probably his most impressive, just because he's got, the quads and hamstrings look good from the side and the glutes. And then, in the side chest, especially his chest looks nice and full, arms look nice and full. So I think they're good shots for him. But he gets a little bit more exposed when he's like front on and straight back on, especially probably in the front. His quads just, I think, overall need a little bit more size. And he's got a very unique looking front double bicep, like where the shoulders come right up. And he's got a totally different physique, which I actually like. I like when guys have sort of differentiating things to their physique. But what do you think, Martin?
Jason's an awesome bodybuilder, man. But like Brett said, I've watched guys transition from 212 to open. I know how tall Jason is. He's going to struggle because he's just not quite ready yet. If this would have happened to Brett if he would have tried to compete right off the bat, a year right into transitioning from 212 to open. They're kind of similar height as well. And, Brett took 2 years and put on 25 pounds and still didn't hit a home run. So we kind of put it in perspective. I think it's a good move for him. He can rebound out of this and continue to grow. But that's what he's going to have to do if he wants to win a open show yet.
Yeah, for sure. I like how he's at least put the muscle on, like pretty gradually, or at least without just blowing his physique out. Because you see some guys make the move and they just go, I'm going all out, and they gain, maybe what Brett gained, but it doesn't look the same as how it looked on Brett's physique,
Yeah, no, he's doing it right, man. He's working his way up the ranks. I love to see that. And I think that it's great to watch somebody go from classic to 212 to bodybuilding, or classic to bodybuilding. It's awesome. It's what the sport should see. Don't limit yourself as a bodybuilder just because you're in the class. Work your way up.
For sure. Next dude, Walter Martin, as we mentioned just before, he did that Indy Pro, came 7th, I believe it was. Hopefully I'm not wrong on that one. How do you guys think that Walter can do in this show? Can he make any improvements in terms of placing higher, do you think, Brett?
I think, based on what I saw just in that show earlier in the year, he actually stuck out to me, mainly because I didn't know who he was. Now I remember I met him, back when I was in Dallas last, something for gas. I think he was just at the gym and stuff. A really nice guy. But the main thing is, like, I need to see him next to these guys. I've only seen him once, so I can't really say too much. I think I think he does have the tools to be up there. He's got nice, big quads here. Brings condition, as you can see there. Legs are great. I think he's going to be lacking a little bit in the upper body. Just with go against Antonio again. Like I said, the Hassan, they're going to be big dudes up top as well. But he's another guy I think will be battling for that 3rd to 7th spot somewhere in there. And then I'm going to have to, when we get done here, I'm going to have to put him somewhere. So we'll figure it out.
What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, I think he could move up from his 7th placing at Indy for sure. Especially if condition is better than here. I'm not saying that it was bad here, but as you tighten up, maybe his low abs come in a little deeper and everything like that, like in this front double shot. And we could see him move his way up. I don't see him beating a Hassan or a Tonio, but like Brett said, I could see him moving up. It's definitely just going to depend on him standing next to these guys, and whether the lineup is going to go way more shapely or whether it's going to be a little bit on the size side, because he's not as much of a shapely guy as he is the size guy, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, talk about Hassan Mustafa. We mentioned him before. Brett, you mentioned him a bit more before. Martin, what do you think Hassan, do you think, obviously you mentioned that you think Tonio is going to win, but do you think Hassan can win? Or do you think it's like a 50-50 chance, or like 60-40 in your mind? What do you think about
Yeah,
Hassan?
I absolutely think it's 50-50 really. Or maybe even in Hassan's favor a little bit, right? He's a big, big boy. I competed against him at Texas. He's an awesome guy, and he's a great bodybuilder. I'm not a fan of his posing. I would like to see it improve a lot. Like Brett said, he's with AJ, so I do think it will improve this week. But then also I am just naturally drawn to aesthetic bodybuilders, which Hassan is not really an aesthetic bodybuilder. He's a monster, and he's a big one, but I do think that Tonio can beat him with posing and lines. But I mean, he has all the tools, man. There's no way that he won't be in the top spot, one of the top spots.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much guaranteed for a sort of a top two,
Yeah.
in my opinion, just because he's,
He would
obviously.
have to absolutely vomit and eat a bunch of pizzas to not have that happen. So
When you said eat I thought he was going to say he'd have to bomb and eat a bunch of penis. I'm glad you didn't say that.
yeah, no, not that. I hope not.
No.
Maybe.
What's that?
So maybe that.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't do as well. Maybe you do better. Who knows? Depends whose it is, I guess. But this is one thing about Hassan. When he does this on stage, like, it looks great here, this back double bicep, but his elbows are generally below his shoulders. Do you think he should, like, I don't know how obviously it looks if his elbows are up a bit higher, but Brett, is that one thing that sticks out with his posing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see him actually do the pose. Honestly, like when he goes too high, he might lose his lats. So I've seen people have to bring him down just to kind of flare it at the bottom. You know what I mean? So it kind of goes. It might be some mobility issues as well.
His is for sure mobility issues. If you look, his subscaps are unbelievably tight, where his triceps come into his lats. And then I'm guessing his pecs are pretty tight, pulling his front delts down because he can't rotate his biceps all the way through. So that's why he's pulling his arm down to try to show more bicep, even though he can't rotate his shoulder around. I actually kind of have to do the same thing because I have shit mobility.
Yeah. I actually had a client and he was, a muscular dude, and he's like naturally an ectomorph, and he just had such issues getting into a back double bicep because of his mobility, and he had work on it like weekly, and it was really, really tough for him as well. But you see, like, this compared to like Justin Rodriguez, he has a great back double bicep. He would have his elbows like up here, you know what I mean? Like completely different. It just looks like it opens up the whole pose, and here it looks like his back is contracted in. While it looks good detail wise, it just looks like it could look bigger, you know what I mean? So
I feel like he needs to lift his chest a little bit more here too. He could bend back, his upper half a little bit more.
For sure.
Like I said, he needs a lot of posing work.
Yeah, and AJ Sims is literally doing that right in this video. So yeah, there he goes.
They've been spending the past 6 days on it, so we're gonna see improvements. There's no question. Tonio's naturally a beautiful poser, so it's something that sometimes guys just have it. I'll be interested, man. I think this is going to be a dogfight, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a battle. Next guy, I'll quickly mention this guy, Rashid Oldaker. Now, I want to mention him because he competed back in 2018, and he was a big dude. Sort of just came out of nowhere, and then he sort of disappeared. And by his recent updates, I don't know if he's that same size. So this is the 10 Pro in 2018. Didn't quite bring the conditioning that he probably needed to place really, really high. I can't remember his actual last placing, but I've looked at a few like recent videos. He's one of these guys that doesn't put a huge amount up either. Actually, I think I'm just seeing this for the first time, this one. I don't know if there's any actual posing in there or not, but doesn't maybe look quite as big. But based on that other photo, Brett, do you think this guy can do any sort of damage?
I have no idea.
No idea.
I think, dude, I actually think I remember this guy. I think years ago, he went through Armbrust Pro Gym a few times, and I just remember he was a big dude. I'm like, who the hell's that? I remember Dylan telling me, like, yeah, he competes and stuff. It's been a while, but I just too much of a wild card, man. You don't know how he's gonna show up. Yeah, that's Cam. That guy's a coach from Denver. That's how I know that guy. Yeah.
Oh, for real.
Who knows? Like, that's probably a good thing. He doesn't show anything, so maybe he'll just show up and be freakish. But the thing is, he doesn't look young either. He doesn't, he's definitely in his 40s. So I guess we're just gonna see how he shows up.
Yeah, Martin, with this sort of physique, do you think he can do any sort of damage?
Same thing with Brett. Like, that physique was 4 years ago. So who knows, man? That's a shot in the dark for me. Does he have enough muscle here to compete with those guys if he's in shape? Yes, but he's going to have to be a couple % body fat less than that to compete with these boys right now. Because Hassan is peeled, Tonio's going to be peeled, and the next guy that we're about to talk about, I think, is going to be in very, very good shape. So I think those guys are going to be the heavy hitters, and this guy's just a wild card. I don't know him, so I can't speak much on him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, same here. Pretty much I saw him back in Tampa 2018. Was like, whoa, this dude's huge. And I thought he's actually going to make a big splash on the bodybuilding scene, but then we didn't really see him, I don't think, much after this. But next guy, Andrea Presti. This guy's got to the Olympia either last year or the year before. He seems like he's made some improvements to his physique as well. And I'm never super impressed by his pre-contest photos. Like some of them are pretty impressive, but he always looks maybe a little bit too thin. But apparently when in person on stage, he looks a lot bigger. Brett, have you seen this guy compete much in person?
I've never actually seen him in person, just that they shows this year. I mean, he's gonna show up. He shows up peeled. That's the main thing, you know. And so I think he's a little bit taller. You know, he's probably 5'11", 6, but he comes in razor sharp. I think he's a top 5 guy. You know, top 6. I just not sure if he'll be in that 1, 2, 3. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Martin, what's your thoughts on Andre Presti?
Man, he's really impressive. So I met him at the Arnold at the gym and got to see him. And his legs are a little bit undersized, I feel like. Not crazy. It's not staggering or anything, but it's a little bit undersized. But, man, the look that he brought at the New York Pro, if he brings something along those lines, I think that he could be right there in the top 3 with these guys. He was peeled at the New York Pro. And his back shots are impressive. He's got a big back. Like Brett said, he's in shape. So it will come down to how he lines up and how he peaks. But I do think that he's probably in a top 3, top 5 guy. And it really will come down to how everybody else shows up. I really think that top 2 is going to be a punching fight between Hassan and Antonio, though.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see how Andrea sort of fits in this lineup because he's one of those guys that could be 6th or he could be up in that top 3 easily. So it'd be interesting to see sort of where he lands. Now, let's get into some predictions. Do you guys want to do what, top 5?
Sure.
6.
Top 6. Okay, yeah, let's do that. I've got my prediction somewhere, so I'll start. Should we all go just like I do all of my predictions, then you do all yours?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So cool. So in 6th place, I've got Max Charles. I just don't think he'll probably have maybe like you said, Martin, I think he's just a bit tired. In 5th place, I've got Jonas Giatris. I just think that his size and conditioning, or more his structure and conditioning will get him a top 5. In 4th, I have Phil Kahar. I just think that I honestly have no idea what Phil's going to bring, to be honest. Like those pre-contest pictures keep messing with my head, and I'm like, should I put him in 6th? And then I'm just trusting what he brought to Texas last year and Boston earlier this year. 3rd, I've got Andrea Presti. I just think his structure will probably carry him in this show, and he's just overall height and size in that regard. In 2nd, I have Hassan Mustafa. I honestly didn't know who to pick in this one because the whole fact that he's with AJ Sims is messing with my head because I feel like he's going to be able to nail it better than his last show, and he's still really good there. So that keeps messing with my head, but I'm going to put Hassan in 2nd and then Tonio Burton in 1st. I just think that his muscle is crazy. He's like a cross between like a younger Dexter Jackson and Michael Lockett. I just think that this is going to be the show where he shows up and he's going to be, you know, sort of bursting forward and really, really conditioned. So I've got Tonio Burton winning it. Brett, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Can you pull up the list real quick again?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Just so I have the names. I mean, I pretty much know what I want to list it, right?
Screen. If I can find where to share my screen. So you know how you can do it and let me get out of this and try again.
I'll go back. I'll go the other way then. So I'm gonna have just still pulled up. I'll start with.
Oh, yeah,
so I'm having a song out Tonio. I mean, you know, it's gonna be good. Thing is, like, if Tonio comes out and he poses like confidently, which I know he's a good poser, but if like he like comes out and demands the stage and shows that he's there to win, because Hassan's not confident. I don't think you know, he might get a little excited, but he's not very confident with his posing. You can just tell.
Yeah.
You know, his obviously his mass and his conditioning is what wins, but it's not, you know, not so much his presentation. So Tony can really come out and, you know, show his, you know, very gifted physique the right way. I think he can win, but I'm gonna go with Hassan slightly edging out Tonio. So we got Tonio in 2nd. I'm gonna have. I think Andrea will be 3rd. I think, like I said, he's just very overall top to bottom polished, great conditioning, just enough muscle. He'll look good next to those guys. I'm gonna say Max Charles shows up, gets fourth. Towards the best he can be. It'll be a nice little battle for third. Then we'll go Phil Kahar in fifth, and then either Walter Martin or let's go Jonas in sixth.
Yeah, they're solid picks. I like it. Martin, what's your picks?
All right, I guess I'll try to go from the back. Probably, I could see Jonas there as well, and probably put.
Do you mean Jonas for the win?
So I'll put Jonas in sixth. I'm gonna put Max in fifth. I think Phil will get fourth. Then third is Pressy, Andre from Italy. And then you have Hassan, and then you have Tonio. So just like you said, I really think that Tonio can come out and show that it's his show and that he deserves to win. And he has the physique to do it. Whereas Brett said, Hassan he has the whole package. But sometimes he's not super confident on stage. And like I said, his posing can really use work. Now, 6 days can do a lot, but I don't think 6 days can fix everything. And then the next factor will be confidence. Antonio is bringing it. I've been talking with him. We're kind of buddies since Legion. And he's very excited, man. He's just ready to show everybody what he did. And he was really disappointed with Cali. He dieted for 6 weeks. I don't know what he expected, but he was really disappointed with that. So for him he locked the fuck in. They really dug out, and he suffered for this to get in shape now. I think as we watch him fill up, he's even going to get better. So I think we're going to see a very impressive Tonio. And then obviously, like Hassan's, who knows, with him being there with AJ, it could be lights out, or it could be one of those things where your coach sees you so much that you start playing with your head, and Hassan shows up flat as a board or something. You never know. So I really think that Tonio is going to bring it. But all of our top sixes are pretty close. So I think we all kind of agree in the same direction of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think we've got the exact same top three, Martin, I'm pretty sure. And then after that, it changes up a little bit. Let's get to a couple of questions because we've got a little bit more time here before we wrap things up. And I'll go to YouTube. And the first one's from David_the future. It says, who is you guys' favorite Mr. Olympia and why? And what inspired you guys to start bodybuilding? So, Brett, do you want to go first?
Yeah, it's got to be Ronnie Coleman, man. Like just looking at a specimen like that can be that big, that absolutely shredded, and having every body part, superior to anybody else on stage pretty much. So, just having a force like that, we might not ever, especially moving forward, and especially, with the societies now and the work ethics and things like that, and people opting for other sports, we might not see somebody that gifted as well as that muscular ever to grace the stage again, So that was definitely, my favorite bodybuilder to see. I wish I would have been able to see him in live, in person more, but I wasn't really into the sport in 1998 and through 2010 or whatever. So it was just right after that. And what got me into bodybuilding was more so just the competition aspect. I was a very competitive person, played college football, played sports growing up, got done with college football, was 165 pounds and just wanted to keep competing in something. So, that's when I kind of, fell in love with the process of bodybuilding and then seeing the results. And then just that competitive spirit that I had led to hey, I want to show this off. I want to win, win. I want to beat people, humbly brag about it. And then that's what we've done. So we're going to, we got to keep winning. That's for sure. But it's led me to this point. So just the competition aspect, and then just continue to see myself and then enjoying the process. So I love it. I love what I do. I love this sport. So I'm just going to keep doing as far as I can with it.
Yeah. It was funny. Ronnie Coleman, so I actually was into the sport before you were into the sport, which is sort of weird to think about. But I remember Ronnie Coleman came to the gym I was working at when I was I'm down in Tasmania now, but I was working at a gym down here, and it was like hardcore bodybuilding gym, you know, all the like signed photos all around the walls, all that sort of stuff. So it was like cool sort of vibe. And they paid him to come down and do a seminar and do like a guest posing and all that sort of stuff. And it was only a couple of weeks after, I think it was the first Olympia he lost to Jay. So he came down straight after that. And it was, man, it was a trip, him walking into the gym and being like, you know, in such a small state in Australia, him coming down, and he just walks in and then he sees like, they had like a little Ronnie Coleman bobblehead. He goes, "Oh, you guys get my bobblehead." And I knew it was broken. So he just touched the head and he goes, "Oh, it's broken." And then just walked off. It was like, he's just such a, but when he came into the gym, I was expecting him to be like, "Yeah, buddy," all that sort of stuff. Cause we were going to see Ronnie Coleman train, you know, and that was back before, you know, heaps and heaps of videos were out, apart from the, you know, the Mitsuru Kabi sort of ones and Battle for the Olympias. And he just trained like really chilled out. We, you know, we had like DMX playing for him and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was just such a trippy thing to have like Ronnie Coleman come to like such a small place in Australia, you know what I mean, on its own little island. So, but yeah, I've got to say, man, Jay Cutler was my favorite, just because that sort of underdog mentality. That's when I got into it, and I was just like, I want Jay to win every year. And then when he did, I was just like, that was in like 2006 or something, wasn't it? I think when he first won the Olympia.
Jay's first win was 2007.
It was 07?
Oh, 06, 07, 09, 10.
I thought he won 10.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
He won 2 and Dexter, and then he won 2.
I thought he only won 1 and then won 3 after Dexter.
Yeah. I think it was I don't know. But regardless, I was just following it, and I was just like,
he won 06 and then 07. And then Dexter won, then he won 09. Then 10,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he came back in 09. That's right. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a massive Jay fan. And I think what got me into it was actually because my dad used to bodybuild back in the day. You know, for a few years, he did it all natural back then. And then I just remember seeing photos of him, and I just wanted to compete in something individual, because team sports sort of wasn't, I liked it, but it just wasn't my thing. I wasn't great at them. So I was like, got into bodybuilding, and whatever effort I put into the gym was directly correlated with how I look. And it's not like you're relying on sort of everyone else to do well for you to actually succeed, I guess. Martin, who's your favorite Mr. Olympia of all time?
This is like unbelievably hard for me, man. So like I look up to Dorian a ton for his mentality at the time. Just like I grew up kind of poor, and like I probably would have been a troublemaker like Dorian was, like going to jail and being in a gang. I wouldn't have really necessarily been in a gang, but like Dorian, I'd have been wild and in trouble and all those type of things, and bodybuilding kind of saved me. So probably that's the person that I connect with the most there. But Jay is the first bodybuilder that I ever really got to meet or spend time with. I was posing in a locker room when I'm 19 years old, and Jay walked in and he's like, "Holy shit, you look awesome, kid." And ran me through poses and put me on his YouTube channel and shit. And I mean, what kid could ask for more than one of his heroes to do that? So that part has a huge connection to me. And then now I train in Metroflex Arlington all the time, where Ronnie was built, and I get to hear stories about Ronnie every single day. You know, from Branch, from Brian. So I have a connection with all of these guys in a different way. And they're all kind of my favorites. So I don't know if I could really pick one, but that kind of gives you a little bit of insight on like why I love each one of those guys for different reasons. They all just kind of play a role in what I feel like bodybuilding is and what it's made of now and what it means to me, I guess. Yep. But those guys are all my heroes. And then I got into bodybuilding, man, because really I was a super young kid in a tiny town. There was nothing else to do but play sports. If you wanted to do well and get out of town, the kids that always did it were the kids that were really good at sports. They got sports scholarships or something, and they moved away and they were successful. So I started wrestling when I was 3. I was obsessed with sports, and everyone was telling me the best way to be the best athlete is to start training weights. So right about that time, you know, I'm 10, 11, was right about the time that Jay Cutler's starting to win his first Olympias. So they were turning out a lot of content then of just him training all the time. Even Kai was turning out some content at that time. So that's kind of where I started to learn how to train. I was training with football players and stuff at the gym, and I just wanted to progressively get better, be able to train by myself. So my dad bought me the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, and I read that as a kid to learn how to train, because my dad thought that it would distract me from going and training, because I hated reading, and he told me I had to read it before I could go. But I did it. I highlighted the shit that was important, and now bodybuilding is like the biggest part of my life. So I really don't know my life much without bodybuilding. Like I said, from the time I was like 11 or 12, it was really kind of important to me. And then by the time I was 15 or 16, I knew I was going to be a pro bodybuilder when I was done with competing in whatever other sport that I was going to do in college at the time. Kind of like Brett, I needed that competitive outlet, and I had already picked bodybuilding long before I even knew I was going to start.
That's awesome. Next question is from Safyan77. Says off-season test-based and carb intake versus on-season comp prep. So I'm guessing he's asking, like, does your amount of tests change that you take off-season compared to on-season, and your carb intake, how different is it off-season compared to on-season? So Martin, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my test doesn't really change if I'm pushing for prep or if I'm pushing for an off-season grow phase. It's about the same. Like I said, somewhere around 750 is where I feel like I'm okay without getting side effects, and I don't have to eat anti-estrogens and stuff like that to try to mitigate side effects. So I think that's about the highest it needs to go. And other than that, carb intake, I have a cycle metabolism like I've talked about before. So in the off season versus prep, they're both crazy high, but prep is retarded high, and then also a lot more added fats to compensate for not being able to eat enough carbs. And then in the off season, I get rid of the fats, or in the prep, I get rid of fats, and my carbs still stay pretty high. But then they obviously have to come down at the end to make sure that we get hard and grainy.
Yeah, for sure. Brett, what about you?
Well, I mean, obviously, like, you're gonna have phases in the off season where you go down to a baseline cruise, for health reasons. So in the off season, it's gonna be lower, because in prep, you're not just gonna lower it, even if there are other additions. So I would say, obviously, prep's gonna be the same or higher. But when you're pushing off season, you might match that as well for test base. But don't neglect coming off or down in your off season, especially whoever's asking this. You should probably make sure that it's down most of the year in the off season too.
Yeah.
What was the code? Carb intake. Carb's going to be, like Martin said, obviously we both have to eat a lot. So carbs are really super high in the off season, and then relatively, then what it is just a transition into your prep. So like the start of prep, your prior carbs are going to probably be up here, and you just gradually go down as you want to lean out and get closer to the show. But it might fluctuate depending on if you have high low days. But overall, if for a mean or median, it's going to be much lower and then prep than it is in the off-season.
Yeah, for sure. Next question. Someone sent this to me privately. They said, which bodybuilder do you think would make the best actor? I guess pro bodybuilder. Do you guys have anyone in mind? I'm thinking, like, one guy who I sort of think of is maybe Urs Kalasinski, because he's like a charismatic sort of dude. He could be like sort of like an Arnold Light sort of. He's pretty funny. I don't know. Outside of that, maybe like a Logan Franklin could be like Captain America or something like that. That's about what I think about. What about Brett? Do you have anyone in mind?
Bumstead would be pretty good. He's very charismatic. I know sometimes it's a little socially awkward, but like if you locked in for a role, it's just something, another thing I think he could, conquer if he wanted to. It matters on the role. Like who's going to be good in front of camera or who's going to be goofy. Obviously if like a Blessing would be good in a movie, if he's like a fucking in the background or something like that, someone like a Blessing would just be funny or goofy. It's kind of what Kai does now. He does a few movie roles, but it's just usually just like somebody in the background or like some kind of warrior that just has a small scene. But I like Urs. Urs is, he has it all. He's the pretty boy look, the very, a good accent, and then just a very funny guy. So I think he would do well, like you said too.
Yeah, I'd much prefer to have like his sort of accent rather than what I've actually got, because I feel like when I hear Australian people, like just say I'm watching an American TV show and then I hear an Australian on there, I'm like, oh my god, it's such a confronting accent. Like it sounds so like we call people like here that speak, a bit like, I guess you maybe call them, I don't know what you call them, but hillbillies or rednecks maybe, or not really that sort of term, but like we call them bogans, like people that sort of, I don't know, live on welfare or whatever, and just druggies and stuff. So if like, to me, when I hear an Australian on an American show, it just sounds to me bogan, I guess what we would call it. But Martin, do you have any ideas on who would be good from bodybuilding?
Man, personality wise, like Brett said, obviously it's totally going to depend, because I think like yours could be, like you said, he can kind of be all around American pretty boy. He's actually a really, really good friend of mine. And I think that he could be a wonderful actor, because he's awesome like that. But funny people, like a lot of people don't know, but Keon is hilarious. He could be definitely like a Kevin Hart in a movie, and the shit that flies out of his mouth is great. So he'd be funny. Blessings is obviously would be great for a comedian act, I think. I don't know if he could maybe lock in for a serious act, but if he could possibly be good for that too. There's not a ton of open bodybuilders, I feel like, that show a ton of their personality as much as some of these other guys have like online, or that we see. So it's kind of hard to say. Like Hunter, his is mostly training videos, and he doesn't show a ton of his personality outside of the gym. So it's hard for people to see that Hunter could play a role. I know Hunter outside of the gym, and I don't really think Hunter would be an actor, but I'm just saying, like, people don't really know that. So
yeah,
I'm trying to think of some other people, like men's physique guys. I think there's probably a couple of them that could probably be decent actors. Like maybe Raymond, because he's kind of a character. If you've ever met him and talked with him, he's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I feel like Terrence would probably be good for some serious roles as well. Like, he's a serious guy, and he's a very intellectual. He can speak very well and stuff. So I think he could be someone that would be like cool, like superhero type of too.
Yeah, Black Panther. So, because didn't he dress up as Black Panther or something?
Yeah, he's done that before, I think, actually, a posing routine like that or something.
Yeah, for sure. Another guy who I just thought of.
Hollins had to find a good role too.
There you go. Yeah, he's
Viking.
Take a Viking or a dwarf or something.
Or a dwarf.
He did that. He did comic dressed up like God of War.
Yeah, he looked. Yeah, it's dope. He looks sick.
Yeah, he nailed that.
Another guy who I just thought of was William Bonac, like with his just playing like some sort of a gangster or something, like in a club walking through or something. I could see that.
Phil would be amazing at acting too. I mean, I really think Phil should be in movies, to be honest.
Is he like, does anyone know if he's actually still pursuing that, like the whole acting side of things?
Right.
I don't think so as much, but that's one of those things, like you put your name out there, like Kai does, Kai is not like pursuing it, but they know you're out there. They'll call you, you know what I mean? You just got to be ready in case you get a call.
Yeah. Kai did some pretty cool things. I remember seeing on ESPN, he was basically like doing this promo for, I think, the NFL. And it was pretty big. Like I remember actually just seeing it, watching ESPN here in Australia, and I was like, whoa. So he's done some cool stuff. I'd love to know how much he sort of got paid for a gig like that, because it was actually showing him on the promo as well. So I was like going between NFL clips and Kai Green. I was like, this is unusual to see a pro like this.
I didn't realize how much Michael Hearn does a bunch of clips and movies too. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I know Brad Rowe does it, or at least did it before. But how much have you guys ever done anything like that?
I think if you're not somebody like Phil or Kai, it all depends on like your location. So the reason like Brad, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing the reason like Brad and obviously Michael Hearn, like, because they're in LA, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like they have an agent out there that's like, the movie's like, hey, we need somebody, like, oh, well, I got so-and-so Brad who lives down the street, he can do it, you know what I mean? Like, so that's where those things are filmed. So they it's all about area. It's not like they're gonna call Martin in Texas and be like, hey, can you be out in LA? Like,
yeah,
it's all set up that way.
Yeah, for sure. It's more convenience and stuff. We'll ask one more question, then we'll wrap this thing up. This is from Gym Guy GLB on Instagram. It says, what's your thoughts on training, bro split slash or hitting? So bro split or hitting all body parts 2 times a week? Brett, what do you do?
I'm still, I usually do some form of bro split. So like, right now I'm still doing, and I might change things up here coming up. I'm still doing like a hamstring day by itself, a quad day by itself. And then I do like a push day, which is chest and shoulders together, and then back day by itself, and then arm day by itself. So more traditionally just hitting them usually once a week. But with how we train and how we build up to this point is like our sessions are so intense that we need those 5-6 days of recovery instead of, so what we'll do, like one session of back, we'll hit 6 or 7 exercises instead of like doing a pull day where you do 3 back, 3 by, and then, you just do it all in one and just absolutely annihilate them. So for me that, I think Martin's pretty similar too. For us now, it's more of a bro split just because of the intensity and the recovery time. But, if you're coming up and stuff, obviously trying to hit both, body part twice a week is going to be more beneficial, just so you can get more blood and muscle, more growth and muscle, more recovery. So it just kind of matters where you're at in your career.
Yeah, one interesting thing I heard, because it's hard to sort of recommend, a specific ideology to a young guy because everyone responds different. But I suppose the main thing is so young people can try everything and see what sort of works best. But Dave Palumbo actually had a good point. I was listening to him once. He said, do more exercises when you're actually younger, which is sort of goes against the norm of what I read coming up. It was always like, oh, you can get away with 3 exercises per body part when you're young and just do that. But Dave Palumbo said, do more exercises and get those, neuromuscular pathways firing more and get the feel of the exercises quicker. And then you're actually able to stimulate muscle better earlier and grow more muscle like that. So there's a lot of, I suppose, different ideologies on when you first start, what sort of split you should be doing and how often you should be training as well. But I found that to be sort of like an interesting point, an interesting perspective, because I've always said, you don't need to do a huge amount when you're younger, but it seems like maybe the other way might be even more beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean,
Martin, what about you?
I guess I could speak on that portion. Is like, I trained my ass off when I was young and did as much as I possibly could and did like 3-hour sessions. And
That worked.
I'm here. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked, but it worked for me. Like Brett said, very similarly, if I have a weak body part, I'm probably going to try to increase frequency on it. But realistically, I've always trained hard enough that once a week is probably beneficial. There's been times that I bumped up to twice a week. So like when my back was weak after Junior USA's in 2018, one of my feedbacks from the judge was like I needed to groom my back. So I put a back day on Tuesday and I put a back day on Friday. And that's a little bit, that was my recovery for where by the time on Friday I was going to train back, I wasn't sore anymore.
Was that like 2 separate sort of back days in terms of like, did you do one more like focused around like sort of like lat width, like pull down sort of stuff, and then one more around rowing, or was it just 2 full back days?
So they both had portions of both in them, but one was definitely more focused on thickness. But really it was just beat the hell out of myself. My mentality with training has always been like drive yourself into the ground. I know that people talk about overtraining and shit, but if you're eating enough and especially taking stuff that we're taking, I don't really think that's possible. You have to be smart with injury, of course, obviously, but outside of that, man, bash yourself into the ground. So that's one thing that has changed a little bit for me from training with Brett to now being here in Texas. I took the branch mentality, and instead of having a quad day and a hamstring day, now I just have a leg day, but my legs are so fucking sore that I can't train again for 8 days. It feels like about the time that they're on sore, I'm doing legs again and getting anxiety. So, it's just beating yourself into the ground, finding that. And then also, like, I think a huge part of training early on is learning how to build a pain tolerance and how to push your mind past your body. I think that that's probably the biggest thing that Brett and I really helped develop in each other versus when we weren't training with each other was we were able to push like motherfuckers together because both of us had the mentality that he wasn't going to beat me that day and I wasn't going to let him beat me that day. And so that was a blast. And I think it both helped us increase our mental capabilities and believe in ourselves even more, doing stuff that we thought was impossible or stupid. And we did it, you know? So that's another thing, is find a training partner too.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually funny, like you mentioned in there about the learning where your sort of pain threshold is and like being able to push past that. I had a guy here in Australia train me once, and his name's Lucky Pantelis, and he has some incredible legs. He probably could turn pro if that was sort of his desire, but I think he just wants to compete as a high level amateur, I guess. But he has just absolutely insane legs, and he's just sort of known in Australia for the dude that has the best legs. And he put me through a leg workout, and we filmed it. This was like many, many years ago. And it was the most insane thing ever. Like, you know, he was doing things where I was collapsing and he was just ripping me up, and then I just collapse again. And it was just over and over. And I was just like, wow, this is messed up. And this is when I was natural as well. And man, I was sore. I couldn't believe it for like 2 weeks. After a week, I got the flu. And then every time I'd walk, I felt my quads were tearing. So this workout was definitely not beneficial for building muscle. Like, I would have gone backwards from it, but it at the same time, it taught me like, okay, I can push my body to that level. So I can push my body damn hard by myself, not to that same level, but it sort of taught me how hard I can actually push myself and still not die. You know what I mean? So I think that's sort of important when you're younger as well, because I think some guys go in the gym and don't really push themselves to the limit, I guess.
You need that wake-up call. Well, everybody thinks they're training hard until they train with, you know, somebody ahead of them and humbles them. So that's why, you know, we're in a good situation. We get to train with a lot of other pros and stuff. And even us, sometimes it's like, oh shit, you know, that's a nice little reminder, you know, that we can't go further, we can't go push harder. And there's always different techniques to use too. So yeah, that's why bodybuilding's fun, is because it's a long-term commitment. You know, it's a lifestyle. So it's like, you're always learning new things, you're always applying new things, and you know, most of the time your body responds to that too. So it's all good.
Yeah. There's one question actually I want to ask you guys as well, because as like an amateur guy, you sort of, or like a, you know, small guy, you see, you know, a lot of pros and you hear about their different training ideologies and all that sort of stuff, but you don't really know exactly, I suppose, what you guys do. But Ronnie Coleman back in the day, he used to do, it seemed like it was the same workout over and over and over a lot. And then I don't know how often he changed it, but he stuck to the same exercises, I heard, a lot, and would do those week after week, and just sort of by progressive overload, I guess he just improved. Do you guys go through patches where you do 6 weeks in a row on the same sort of exercises, or are you pretty open to doing different things each workout?
Go ahead, bro.
So I literally had this conversation yesterday with a younger guy. It was actually at the gym. It was at the front desk, and he kind of asked me that. And you know how I describe it now is like, and he probably did, Ronnie probably did, and I know Martin as well. We used to, you know, we've done that in our career, but it's like how I described it is like, how would you enjoy if you've read the same book every single day for 10 years? You know what I mean? So it's like you got to open the same book every day and read the same book every single day for 10 years. Not many people can do that. You know, there are some that can do that. They're mentally locked in so much, it doesn't bother them. But, you know, for us, I feel like it gets in a lot of pros. I know this. It's like there needs to be some kind of variations going. You know what I mean? So like week to week variations. So I would say like what I do, especially with like legs, is like I almost have like 3 or 4 different set. Like, so say it's quads. So I'll have 3 or 4 different set quad days, and then I'll rotate through those. So you're still kind of doing progressive. I mean, you're still doing progressive overload, except that you're coming back to the same movement, you know, 3 or 4 weeks apart. So it's like the thing is, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have a great gym, then you have enough equipment that you can set up these different training sessions that you rotate through every 3 to 4 weeks. So that way you're not always just doing the same thing each week, because I think a lot of people lose focus that way, because it's like you're eventually going to hit a wall with progressive overload. You will. You're gonna hit a wall, and you're not gonna be able to progress anymore, or you're gonna regress, or what's gonna happen is you're gonna hurt yourself. So you got to be able to switch exercises when it's needed, or have those rotations in so it lasts longer. So that's why I say is like I'm not huge on the logbook, because like it almost takes it honestly almost takes the fun and the enjoyment out of bodybuilding when you're doing it for such a long period of time. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's for beginners for that first couple of years, yeah, do that. You know, make sure you're progressing on each lift week to week. Like try to do that. Try to beat the book. But when you're doing this for 10 to 20 years, you know, it's different. It's a job. You know what I mean? It's like you got to find different ways to, you know, make it enjoyable as well as still progressing. So I think it's a balance. Honestly, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, sure. Martin, what do you do?
I mean, just like Brett said, I mean, realistically, something very similar. I mean, what Brett and I did in Denver was that we had essentially 2 or 3 quad days that all had very similar movements. It was like we had a squat pattern, we had a leg press pattern, we had another squat pattern after that. Then we probably had started with the quad isolation and then those afterwards. And then we just ran through different machines to make those patterns less fucking boring and had challenges for each other, you know. Now I do something different every fucking time, it seems like. I'm trained with Branch right now, and he just likes to change it up. We do different reps, different sets, different supersets all the time. But we're running through, like I said, same patterns. It's the same rowing motions. It's the same chest motions. You know, whether it's a flat bench press with dumbbells or whether it's a flat bench press on a machine press, I'm still running that movement. It just depends on the day and what we feel like doing. And then just running it into the ground, whether it's a superset or something like that. I mean, volume kind of depends on the person and how your recovery is and all those things, and what you can handle. But the biggest thing that I've probably taken away from Texas is that you can handle way more than you think you can. And you just need to keep pushing your barriers and your boundaries. You know, I mean, there's definitely times that I've gotten sloppy and stuff down here with just trying to push it, but I think that that's grown my mentality more than anything here, and been able to help me be a lot more confident in myself as a bodybuilder and know that I'm doing everything that I possibly can to be the best.
Yeah. And another thing as well, like when guys are younger, I think maybe it's even maybe slightly more beneficial at times to keep some of those base sort of exercises in there for several weeks in a row so they can develop those movement patterns as well. Because I know when I was younger, if I changed my workouts every week and did different exercises, I sort of wouldn't get the proper feel of certain movements. And like, you know, just say doing an incline press or something, I wouldn't really be feeling it in my up chest. It'd be coming down, but probably my front delts was aching a lot and all that sort of stuff. So I think sometimes when you're really early days, maybe repeating the same movements for a few weeks in a row and getting used to it might be a good idea as well. And then just adding some different ones maybe at the end when you're doing more sort of the volumizing part of a workout. But yeah, do you guys have anything else to add on that?
I've been training so long, I forgot what it was like when I first started training, bro. I don't remember like when it was like 12 and 13. I don't really remember what training was like back then, what I really did.
It was barbell bench press every other day. That's what it was.
I know. I remember I ran the workouts out of the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding for a long time.
That's why you trained for hours?
So they were Arnold ones. Yeah, they were long as shit, dude. They were like chest and back together. You did like bench press and pull-ups, you know, stuff like that. So I mean, that kind of stuff will really make you develop a physique, and just like he said, running through patterns. I mean, one of the things I got obsessed with in high school was squats. Like I had it in my head that I was going to do 405 for 20. And so I just beat squats into the ground every single week that I possibly could and gave myself the worst low back pumps in the world.
I remember reading, like, I don't know if it was like a Flex or an MD or something like that. One pro bodybuilder said, you know, the best thing you can do for legs is just go in and do 10 sets of squats and then just leave, or maybe do some leg curls at the end or something like that. And I used to do that literally every week for ages, but I never really, like a lot of the pros guys I used to see how you'd sort of like do the sets. So you do like squats, so you do, you know, 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plate, 4 plate, and so on. And I never used to understand that. I'm like, how are they doing the same amount of reps? Aren't they going all out every set? And really, like, you guys probably, when you're doing those sorts of build-ups, you're not going all out every set. But as a young guy, I'm like, you have to go to failure every set almost. So I do 10 sets of squats, like almost failing, but I'll be adding like 2.5 each set and then just doing a few less reps. But man, like I never really understood for many years the whole like doing lead up sets. I would just add a little bit of weight each set because I'm like, oh, I want to pyramid up, you know, but I would just absolutely kill myself. And one prep I did when I first decided to compete again, I was like, I'll do men's physique because I had a lot of hip issues and stuff like that. So the legs weren't coming up like I wanted. And I actually trained because I had a few like fatigue issues where I'd get really fatigued quite badly. And I'm like, I'm just going to train like this and just see how I look. And I was doing like a transformation to start with. And I actually looked dramatically better. I'm like, okay, I'll just go all out on the last set of each exercise. And I just looked so much better doing that because my body was so much less stressed. Because I think before that, I would beat myself, probably like how you are, Martin. I'd beat myself into the ground and it just didn't work for my body. It just almost went backwards. My body just looked fresher. I got in better condition really, really easy. And it was just a dramatic difference, my whole prep. So,
yeah, I think the only reason that I'm capable of doing this is one, because I'm really young.
yeah.
And two, because I'm able to eat the amount of food that I'm able to eat helps drastically. I mean, I'm still on my high days, 700 carbs right now. And Branch was talking today that he's probably going to bump it tomorrow to even higher, because I've ran 2 low days at 50 carbs a piece these past 2 days. And my body's just making some crazy changes. So he's like, we're going to just keep doing the carb cycle and making it, fluctuate even more. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's good you're able to actually do that. And it seems like a lot of the good bodybuilders and guys that come up pretty quick tend to have those crazy sort of metabolisms. Obviously, like you, Brett. Obviously, like Nathan. He's an absolute freak as well. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting, and especially from like an amateur guy's perspective, because I used to prep a lot of amateur people, and it's very interesting to see how those sorts of guys work compared to like, I actually even helped Samson for a little bit when he's going to do the Arnold Classic in in Brazil, and that contest was called off due to COVID and all that sort of stuff. But it was very interesting to see how his body works compared to amateurs, and it was just 2 totally different things. It was just so different. The amount of food he had to actually eat was pretty insane, like you guys as well. And it was, yeah, sort of like an eye opener, and it was a cool experience to be able to see what he does with everything, you know what I mean? And how that works for his body.
Yeah.
But anyway, boys, we'll wrap this one up. Hope you guys enjoyed this bonus episode of, I don't know what it's called yet, whether it's bodybuilding and banter, pump and dump, whatever it's going to be. We've got actually a few extra names as well, and we can we'll come up with that and basically discuss it. And if you guys have any extra names, let us know in the comments below. Let us know your predictions for the 2022 Orlando Pro. Give us your top 5, your top 3, your top 10, whatever you want to do in the comments below as well. Also, follow these guys on social media. I'll put all there. It'll be on the screen right now. You guys can see it, and also be in the description below as well as your guys' YouTube channels. And we'll have some of these clips going up on your guys' YouTube channels soon too. You guys got to send me how to either log into your accounts or whatever, and your intros and stuff. And we'll be able to get that happening on your guys' YouTube channels. So that's it for this one. For Martin Fitzwater, Brett Wilkin, and myself, Xavier Wills, we're out.
See ya.